जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधार श्रीवास आदि गौर भक्त वृंदा। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे. Hare Krishna. Welcome back. So before going through the discussion of the Bhagavad Gita verses, chapters by chapters, I thought of covering this topic, how mind works. Because in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is stressing on this point that a mind can be a friend or a mind can be an enemy, depending on how we use our mind. So when we are going to study in details, this understanding of how our mind works will be very helpful to organize our thoughts, connect things, what Krishna is saying. So in details, when we go and study this, then it makes our life very easy. So that's why I'm going to discuss this topic very quickly. So the definition of mind according to the Vedas is mind is nothing but it comes from the root word mana, or to think, or it is mind. In English it is mind. And it is considered as a recording facility. It records things like, in a tape recorder or a CD we record things. So similarly, our minds also record things. And it is said that that faculty which coordinates sensory impressions before they are presented to the consciousness. And this is one of the inner instrument which receives the information from the external world. So those things which are coming out from the external world, like whatever we are seeing, those are sensory inputs, and they go through our equipments which are part of our body, like eyes, ears, nose. So those are the instruments Krishna has given us to receive information from the outside world, right? And this instrument, once receive the information, then it can be used for further processing by the buddhi. So that's where the role of mind comes into picture. So mind is kind of a recording facility. It records things, it assimilates things from different senses, and it once after assimilation, then it presents to the intelligence for further processing, and then from intelligence it passes to the consciousness. So let's see how it works. Before going to the workings of the mind, let's understand in the 13th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna talks about this indriyas, Gyanendriya, Karmendriya, Panchabhuta, all these things. So what are these? These are called as field of activities. So there are 5 gross elements. Our body is made up of 5 gross elements: earth, water, fire, air, and ether. And then we have the senses, which is eyes, ear, nose, tongue, and skin. So all these senses are actually used to receive information. Like eyes will see a form, so that is, the form is called in Sanskrit as rupa. Ears will hear the sound, that is sabda. Nose will smell something, which is gandha. And tongue will taste, that is called as rasa. And skin will feel the sensation of touch, and that is called as sparsha. So all these things are form, sound, smell, taste, and touch. That is known as vishaya, or objects of the senses. So the vishaya is the stimulus which comes into our senses. So the eyes will receive those stimulus, and similarly ear will receive the stimulus of sound, and so on. And then we have some working senses. Those are like hands, legs, voice, anus, and genitals. So Krishna in the 7th chapter, he explains the constitution of our body as there are 5 gross elements. So those gross elements are earth, water, fire, air, and ether. Ether means space. So our body is made up of these elements: earth, water, fire, air, and ether. And then there are three more subtle elements. So these are gross elements. So gross elements are the elements which we can see. Subtle elements are there, but we can't see, but it exists. So those subtle elements are Krishna names as false ego, intelligence, and mind. So mind is one of the subtle element of the body. And then there are other bodies. So we're not going to discuss this in details much, but these are the field of activities described in 13th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, and we interact with this world using this field of activity. It's like you can consider that there's a soccer field, football field, those different kinds of fields are there. So similarly, a body is considered as a field for doing some kind of activity. That's why it's called as field of activities. So the description which I'm going to take is from the book Chaitanya Shikshamrita by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So how I came to this particular knowledge was once I completed my Bhakti Shastri, and my Guru Maharaj suggested me that if you want to teach, then you should read this book. A book name was Art of Teaching. Actually, I desired to teach after the Bhakti Shastri. So I asked Maharaj, and he said that before teaching, you should read this book, Art of Teaching, by His Grace Bhurijan Prabhu. So Bhurijan Prabhu is the disciple of Srila Prabhupada, and Srila Prabhupada actually instructed him to design courses for the students of ISKCON so that they can systematically learn Shastras. So then when I was reading this book, one of the chapter in that book was called as Learning Theory. And in the learning theory, this particular topic which we are going to discuss was there. How the mind works. Now, I found it very interesting, and this is the first time I came to understand how actually the mind works. And this has been explained by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his book Chaitanya Shikshamrita. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, in one paragraph, he explains how mind works, and then Bhurijan Prabhu gives detailed analysis of each of the statements what Bhaktivinoda Thakur has written. So here you will see how Bhaktivinoda Thakur writes. This is the exact paragraph, but I have put it into a point kind of thing so that it's easy for us to understand. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, this is how one learns. Okay, and then the first point is saying that the knowledge by the senses is possible for all jivas having senses. So if the jiva or the living entity doesn't have a body or senses, then the receiving of knowledge won't happen. So this is the first requirement. We have to have our senses, our eyes, ear, nose. It's just for an example, if we don't have eyes, then we can't see. Or if our ear doesn't work, then we can't hear. So that stimulus will not go inside. So that's what it means. Knowledge by the senses is possible for all the jivas having senses. Second point, the knowledge of the feelings of the external world is carried by the senses through the nerves to the brain. So now these are the various points given here. So what I did is I created a presentation for each of these lines, and then we go into the details of how these lines or what these lines means actually. Okay, so according to this statements of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, there are actually 6 stages of learning, and I'll cover this again, but in short there are 6 stages of learning. First stage is called as stimulus. Second stage is the inner senses, and then the third stage is the storage. The fourth stage is the preliminary analysis. fifth stage is deeper analysis for identification, and the sixth and the last stage is deeper analysis for reasoning. So out of these 6 stages, the first stage is the faculty of senses. So this is carried out by the senses, and then the next 4 is carried out by the mind, and the last one is the faculty of intelligence. So these are called as faculties. So the first faculty is the faculty of sense, and the second to fifth means totally 4 of them are the faculty of mind, or this is done in the mind, and the last one is done in the intelligence. Now when we do some normal activities, we don't analyze into so many details, but inside our mind, inside our brain is actually a physical substance, but mind is subtle. You cannot pinpoint where is the mind, but brain we can pinpoint. So the mind, or the brain through which the mind is receiving the information, because the information actually comes through our physical body and then it goes to the subtle body. So it has to go through so many processes, but normally we don't understand unless we have gone through this kind of studies, that how really the mind works. And when we understand this, then when we study, then we can actually utilize the knowledge which we are going to gain here to understand. So that's why I thought it's important to go through the understanding of how the mind works. And this is actually also going to help us in our day-to-day activities. So let's see what is the first sense or faculty of the senses. So this is the first one. Okay, this is stimulus, and this is the activity of the senses. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur writes, this whatever I have put in the box are the statements of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, which I showed you here. So I picked up these statements and then I have put it in the box over here, and then tried to explain it in the rest of the presentation. So first, out of these 6 stages, this is the first stage, which is the activity of the senses. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur writes, this is how one learns. Knowledge by the senses is possible for all jivas having senses. So we discussed this point, that if we don't have senses, then the receiving of the knowledge won't happen. That's why we won't learn. And the second point is saying the knowledge of the feelings of the external world is carried by the senses through the nerves to the brain. Okay. So this is how the information which is coming out or coming from the outside world is actually received by the instruments of our body. Eye is an instrument, ear is an instrument. So these are instruments. These are very, very complicated instruments. In particularly, the eye is a really, really complicated instrument. Even the scientists who have studied, or doctors who are ophthalmologists, they can tell us how that small piece of lens is. It's highly complicated and it's very, very sophisticated. It has got a lot of layers, and it is really something very wonderful. We don't realize it until unless if we lose our eyes, then we know that importance of the eyes. Otherwise, even we don't care, or we have some trouble with our vision, then we actually start caring about the eyes. But it's a very complicated instrument which is given to us by Krishna. And the purpose of that instrument is sight. Whatever we want to see, using that instrument we can see. Similarly, ears are for hearing, and then the tongue is for tasting, and there are so many nerves on the tongues, or taste buds we can say, which actually receives information. When we eat actually food, that's why in Ayurveda it is said that when you eat food, you should chew the food at least 32 times. And why is it said that? Because when we are chewing the food and it is mixing with the saliva, then that information, that what kind of food we have put inside our mouth, is registered. Like when we go to a hotel, when we go to a hotel for staying overnight, then first of all we go to the counter for registration, right? And then they will allot us some room. So similarly, when we eat any food, the first thing that happens is the registration, and then the information is received in the brain and the pituitary gland and hypothalamus, and then that passes the information to the stomach. Okay, now this kind of food is coming, so you need this particular kind of digestive juices to digest that particular food. So if we just gulp the food, the information is not processed correctly. That's why we have indigestion. This is the reason of indigestion, because the registration of the food has not happened. It takes time to register. Okay, so next time when we eat, you have to be careful about it. We eat slowly and we chew our food and we mix it with saliva. So then proper registration can happen at the tongue, level of tongue, and the information can be sent to our stomach, and then the rest of the process becomes easy. Right? The next one is a touch. So touch is, by our touch we feel the things and we can understand how the object, whatever we are touching, even sometimes we can just close our eyes and we just touch things and we can still sense, okay, this is the thing which I am touching. So that's the feeling of touch. And then the feeling of the nose, or the smell which we intake through the nose. So what happens is, these are whatever the eyes see, or the ears hear, or the food which we taste through the tongue, or whatever we touch. So these are called as stimulus. So senses will pick up sense stimulus from the sense objects. So some sense objects are nothing but those things which we see or we hear. Those are called as sense objects. And the example is, eyes see some form, and eyes can be compared as a telescope. So when we are using those telescope, is the telescope seeing, or is the person behind the telescope who is actually seeing? So telescope is just an instrument, but there is a person who is behind the telescope. So that person, through the lens of the telescope, actually sees and the stars and whatever things they are seeing. So that instrument is required. Without an instrument you can't see. Similarly, the instrument of ear is required for hearing the sound. And in Bhagavad Gita 5th chapter 13th verse, it is said that the body is made up of body is a city of 9 gates. So those gates are like 2 eyes, 2 ears, mouth, anus and genitals, so these are like 9 gates through which the information is either received or it is sent out. So in essence, the first faculty is the activity of the senses. So using the senses we receive information. That is what Bhaktivinoda Thakura is meaning by these particular statements. So once we receive those information, then it goes inside through the nerves, and that nerves, they pass the information to the brain. So from brain, then there is a connection from brain to the mind, which is subtle, right? So I'm not going to go into the depth of this, but there are different concepts given in Ayurveda, that is prana and all these things are there. There are different kinds of airs in the body. And those airs are like prana, apana, samana, vayana, udana. So these are like 5 different kinds of airs, and these airs are actually transporting the information from one places to other places. If the vayu is not there, the air is not there within the body, then the functioning of the body won't happen. So those are more details, but for our purpose right now, we understand that the stimulus from the outside world actually comes inside the body through the nerves. First of all, it comes through the senses, and then from the senses it goes to the brain through the nerves. Then comes the second phase, and that is called as the first faculty of the mind. So if you see, I said over here, this is the faculty of the senses, and then there are 4 faculties of mind. So this is the first faculty of mind, which is the inner sense. So we are going to study that part 2 of that, and the part 2 is first faculty of mind. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that these feelings are carried from the external world by the first faculty of the mind, which is like an inner sense. So these nerves, we can consider it like an inner sense, and the information from the outside is going into the brain through those nervous systems. So here we see there is a kind of pipette kind of thing, and the water, actually you think like the water is going inside this. So these are different drops of water. They go inside this tube, and then from inside this tube it goes down, and it is collected here in this glass jar. So this pipe thing can be considered as the first faculty of the mind, or that is what Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying, or these are inner sense. So now when we actually see something or when we hear something, there are scientists who have done experiments that there are different paths through which they are flowing. Like eyes is collecting certain information, and ear is collecting another kind of information, and they have different pathway, and then all this information are separately collected by the senses, and then they are integrated together. Later their integration happens, like when we hear a parrot or when we see a parrot flying and making noise. Actually we are seeing multiple things. We are seeing, first of all, we are seeing the parrot, we are seeing that parrot is flying, and also we are hearing the sound of the parrot. So all these inputs are simultaneously going through different path. Hearing is going through ears, the seeing is going through the eyes, and then they are all integrated in the mind. So what the details of this is, inner senses carry stimulus from the senses to the mind. So they carry all this information to the mind. Assume that this portion is like mind. In order to catch the stimulus, the mind has to be focused on the object of the senses. So this is the point, very important. That's why we are studying this topic of mind. So in order to catch that, like even if a parrot is flying in front of me, but if my attention is somewhere else, I will not be able to see it. I will not be able to grasp that information. Or let's say even somebody is speaking and my thoughts are somewhere else. My focus is not on what the person is speaking, then I will not hear, because I have not received that information. And the example is, somebody is giving class and our attention is somewhere else. Then the person may speak and some kind of sound is going through our ear, but we will not be able to register what that person is really speaking. So that is the most important point, that we have to have our focus on the mind when this stimulus is coming. Otherwise we will not be able to register it. Okay, so now the second faculty of mind. So this is stage number 3. So first phase we saw senses, second phase we saw the first faculty of mind, which is the inner sense, and that's why I put name over here, inner sense. And the third faculty of, or second faculty of mind, is the storage. So storage happens. Now this storage, this one, second faculty of mind, by the Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, by the second faculty of the mind, these feelings are kept in memory. So these things are, whatever you have received is kept in a memory. And this memory is a quick memory. So let's see what it means. So receives and holds the stimulus. This is like a storage. And in order thus to store, the mind has to be focused on the senses, right? That is, we already learned. And whatever we have, whatever kind of information we have received, now that information is not only something which we have seen, but it can be also smell, or a song what we have heard, or some feelings, or some emotions, or some concepts, etc. The mind can practically store anything. There is no limit to what mind can do. So mind can store any kind of information. So that is the storage facility of the mind. That is the memory of the mind. Now, after keeping the things in the memory, then what happens is the next stage, which is analysis will happen, what has come. So analysis of what has information we have received is of three types. So first is it receives the information through the inner senses. Secondly, it stores it. And then there are three levels of analysis that happens. First level of analysis is very preliminary analysis. And this analysis part, actually, the three levels of analysis that's going to happen in the mind, and two of them are going to happen in the mind and one is going to happen in the intelligence. So this part we are going to cover in the next session. So I'll stop here, and then we'll continue in part 2 of the discussion of mind. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Premanande Haribol.